Today, we are going to unpack the incredible story of Minimalist, a beauty brand that went from a failed idea to a 3,000 crore acquisition in just 4 years. Seriously, they basically tore up the old rulebook for the beauty industry, and we're going to get into exactly how they pulled it off. So just recently, the giant of consumer goods, Hindustan Unilever, announced it was buying Minimalist. And the price tag? A mind-blowing 3,000 crore rupees. To give you some idea of how huge that is, this is the largest all-cash deal for a direct-to-consumer brand in India's entire history. And here's the really wild part. Minimalist is only 4 years old. They started right in the middle of the pandemic. So how on earth did a brand new company from Jaipur, not exactly a startup hub, build something worth thousands of crores in almost no time? That is the big question we're digging into.
All right, so let's start by looking at what makes this deal so unique. Because it's not just about the money. The real story is in the details.
Let's just break down the wow factors here. First off, this whole thing was built in Jaipur, not some big metro city. Second, the founders held on to a massive 60% of the company, which means they walked away with around 1,700 crores in cash. And to top it all off, they did this in one of the toughest industries out there, going up against the very giants who ended up buying them, and they started it all during a global pandemic. It's just incredible.
Now, to really get how Minimalist succeeded, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. We have to look at the founders' first shot at the beauty industry, a business that actually failed but gave them the exact insight they needed to win big.
So the founders, two brothers, Mohit and Rahul Yadav, they weren't new to this. Back in 2018, they launched a brand called Free Will, and the idea was genius. Personalized, on-demand hair care made just for you. People absolutely loved it, gave it glowing reviews, and it even got them into Sequoia Capital's super prestigious Surge program. But then, just 2 years later, they shut it all down.
And here's why. This was the light bulb moment. While customers loved the custom products, the business model itself just couldn't scale. Making a unique product for every single customer was way too slow and way too expensive. It was a great little business, sure, but there was no way it was going to become the billion-dollar brand they were dreaming of. And that failure, it turned out to be the most valuable lesson they ever learned. And that lesson showed them a fundamental truth about the Indian beauty market. It was all about marketing hype, not about products that actually worked. The brothers saw this huge, gaping hole in the market for a brand that was built on transparency and real results, not just fluffy buzzwords.
And this just shows you the radical shift they brought in. The old playbook was all about vague words like natural and organic, that thing called greenwashing, while hiding the real ingredients in tiny print on the back. Minimalist just flipped that script entirely. They focused on hard science, listed every ingredient transparently, and put the key stuff right on the front of the bottle. They were a product-first company in a marketing-first world.
Now, a lot of people were quick to point out, hey, this looks a whole lot like that Canadian brand, The Ordinary. And you know what? Instead of getting defensive, the founders were totally open about it. Mohit Yadav himself said that Minimalist literally wouldn't exist if a brand like The Ordinary was already in India. That kind of honesty, well, it became a huge part of their brand. Okay, so they had this product-first philosophy. But how did they grow so ridiculously fast? Well, their playbook was completely counterintuitive. It was an anti-marketing strategy. The first piece of this puzzle is just insane efficiency. Most direct-to-consumer brands, the ones that sell online, are pouring 40 to 50% of all the money they make right back into marketing. It's a huge number. Minimalist, these spent just 25%. So how in the world did they grow so fast while spending so much less? Well, the answer was the product itself. It just worked. It was so good that customers kept coming back for more. Minimalist had a customer repeat rate of 60%. Let that sink in. The industry average is somewhere between 16 and 22%. When your customers are 3 times more loyal than your competitors, you just don't have to spend a fortune trying to find new ones.
And this efficiency is captured perfectly by something called Return on Ad Spend, or ROAS. For every single rupee Minimalist spent on an ad, they made 4 rupees back in sales. Compare that to other big brands who are usually happy with 1.5 to 3 times their money back. They were just getting way more bang for their buck.
So the crucial thing to understand is that they weren't being cheap, not at all. They were just spending their money differently. All the cash they saved on big, flashy ad campaigns, they plot it right back into making an even better product. And you can see this philosophy right in their numbers. Minimalist's gross margin was around 65%.
which means 35% of their revenue went straight into the cost of what's inside the bottle. For a lot of their competitors, that margin is way higher, somewhere between 70 and 90%. That's because Minimalist was spending more on high-quality ingredients, and kind of like Tesla, they owned their own manufacturing to control the quality. A better product meant happy customers did the marketing for them.
Which brings us to the final big question. If everything was going so incredibly well, why sell the company to HUL? So let's get into the strategy behind this massive exit.
When you boil it down, the decision to sell really came down to two things: a huge opportunity for growth and a pretty scary new threat that just appeared on the horizon.
First, let's talk distribution. In India, you can build a 500 crore brand online for sure. But to get to that next level, you have to be in physical stores. That's just where most of India still shops. And who has the best distribution network in the country? HUL. We're talking access to over 9 million stores. This deal gives Minimalist instant, unmatched offline reach. It's like getting the keys to the kingdom overnight.
The second reason was competition. Remember The Ordinary, the very brand that inspired Minimalist in the first place? Well, guess who officially launched in India in 2022, partnering up with the retail giant Nykaa? Yep, their inspiration had just become their biggest competitor. So this sets the stage for an absolute showdown in the Indian beauty market. In one corner, you've got Minimalist, now backed by the incredible power and reach of HUL. And in the other corner, you have The Ordinary, backed by the global giant Estée Lauder and the retail powerhouse Nykaa.
So you see, this acquisition wasn't just an exit. It was Minimalist gearing up for its biggest battle yet. And that leaves us with this massive question. In this clash of titans, who is ultimately going to win the science-first beauty market in India? The game has only just begun.